Welcome back, travelers. And as you can see, we are doing legendary lore. I'm Ricky, and this is my berserker buddy, Joe. Say hi, Joe.
Rar.
He's very boastful. Speaking of boast and berserkers, let's talk about Arni Brokenbrow.
Yeah,
Now, yes, Joe, what do you know about Arni Brokenbrow?
he's a card in Kaldheim.
That is correct. Not only is a card, he's a red card, and he's a human. So we're gonna, Joe, you good?
Yeah, I'm just getting ready for story.
Okay, storytelling. So basically, the idea behind Arni is that he's one of the members of the Breda Guard and all that other stuff, and the human realm of Kaldheim. Now, there's different groups of humans. The Tuskeri are the red ones, and Skell are the black ones. Skell being humans that were influenced by demons that invaded during a Doomscar and then were kicked out. Varagoth was the one who influenced them. The point being, they're constantly having battles with each other. The Tuskeri love to just run into fights and see who can do the most crazy thing. Whoever does the craziest thing becomes the leader until something crazier happens. So it's literally just a clan of one-upsmanship. I love it. It's the best, and it makes perfect sense for a red tribe.
So they're arrogant Coligans.
Yes. Now, that said, this particular story opens up. There's a small group of Tuskeri, the red ones, and then a large contingent of the Skell. The Skell are in like a wide crescent-shaped formation, and the Tuskeri are in a small band. Watching over them, of course, are Valkyrie, two of them. You have Alajan, and then you have Nijala, because they do the flip-de-flop, right? Now,
Sure.
yes, exactly. So, Alajan is the Reaper. Najala is the normal Valkyrie. Okay.
You sound like you're trying to sing French songs.
I really know I'm messing up their names. I must be. Aliyan, Nyala.
Where's Jaka?
I'm gonna call one Al and the other one Nala. How about that?
That works. Because every time you say it, I want to start singing Frere Jaka.
Aliyan, Nyala, Aliyan, Nyala. Okay, so Al and Nala. So Al is the Reaper. Nala is the one that is like meant to be taking the yes. So Al's the Reaper. Nala's watching them. She's like, these guys are gonna like die a glorious death. I'm gonna take them away, kind of thing. That's just what they're supposed to do, right? And so you have this massive Skell contingency, and they're just going to surround the entirety of the Tuskeri. But what they don't count on is Arni, that absolute unit of a man. He's like, okay. He holds up his sword, he yells, and they charge. And the Skell are not expecting the charge at all. And so they just freak out, and they try to stop them, but the Tuskeri wind up just like the Tuskeri are going forward, right? Mm-hmm. The Skell put out spears to like just skewer them, and then Arni jumps over the spears and just starts killing dudes. And so they're like, what's going on? This guy can fly. And so they're going in like everything's like, yeah, but because now he's behind them, they have to turn around to fight him, and then that means that the people that were charging are now have a full thing. It's a mess, and it's so bad. The Skell, who had the upper hand, break their line. They break formation, and they start running away. And of course, that means Al goes and slaughters a bunch of them because they died a coward's death. And so they
regular tactics game logic. You attack them from behind, you deal more damage.
Yeah, exactly. But that's what winds up happening, and none of the Tuskeri die. All of Arni's guys live. And so this happens, the Valkyrie, they return, and Nala's like, what just happened?
Well, this isn't who I was supposed to bring in today, but okay.
Yeah, well, she didn't bring anyone in. No one died a glorious death. They all died cowardly. So, like, What is she supposed to do?
Al takes him or nobody takes him?
If Nala doesn't do it, Al kills him and sends him to Istfel.
Okay.
Because Istfel is where everybody else goes, right?
Yes.
And so she's like, Brokenbrow should have died. Like, we were there. I was there to take him here. And so she's there and she's like listening to all the people.
Like, he was going to die a warrior's death. He was really cool, but he wasn't supposed to live. He was supposed to die either way.
Yes, he was supposed to blow up into a bunch of tiny little pieces because he ate a bomb pie. You get the idea. So basically, she goes and she talks to one of the to a skald. Skalds are people that tell stories. They're the bards, basically. And so she goes to the skald and she's like, "Hey, Hormgart, tell me about this guy. His name's Arni." And he's like, "Oh, Arni? Oh yeah, I've got some stories." And so basically, what you're going to hear, several things. This is like a bunch of little compilation of things Arni's done. Okay.
So the beginning of the story where Arni does something was a framing device for us hearing more little stories about Arni.
Exactly.
That's kind of amazing already.
Yes.
Continue.
Now, I'm going to tell you the story now in its entirety because it cuts between bits of his, like, why he got his name and like the journey basically as she continues to watch him. So I'm first going to...
He doesn't know his name because he has a giant claw in his eye?
It's not a claw.
Okay, I guess go on then.
So, you have the Tuscari, right? And they're like in their place, and there's a guy named Arni Goatleaper, because he can jump over goats really good. That was what he was known for. That was his name. And so...
That explains that he can fly part.
Yes. And so, it turns out some trolls had found an omen path and were now in the human territory. And trolls are things that you don't want around because they'll eat your livestock and your family. Make sense?
Yeah.
And so Arni goes up to them and he's like, "Hey," well, actually, I'll just tell you what he says. He gets a blessing from a cleric. He goes and he just walks up to them. "You're the lots that's been raiding up and down the ridge. Now I've got a whole army of berserkers out there." He came on his own, ready to tear your heads off, but I'd figure I'd give you a chance to settle this a different way. A headbutting contest, he proposed, grinning. "Loser packs up and leaves these mountains forever." Now, remember, these are trolls. These are massive, horned, monstrous trolls.
So it's a troll horn in there.
Hours passed. The sun sank low over the red peaks, and still, Arni and the troll continued. Both retired, bloodied, dizzy from constant impacts, but Arni was still grinning as he stepped forward for yet another headbutt. The troll, on the other hand, looked like he could scarcely believe what was happening. The human was actually keeping up with a troll in a headbutting contest. He was ashamed, but more than that, he was frightened. What if the small, grinning man actually beat him? In that moment of fear and uncertainty, the troll decided to do something not unfamiliar to troll kind. He decided to cheat. It was time. Both Arni and the troll set their feet, craned their heads back for a savage blow, but just as Arni swung forward, the troll angled his tusks up. Yes, it was his teeth. Toward the Tuscari's brow. It was, of course, a terrible mistake. There were many as strong or stronger than Arni Goatleaper, and many as cunning or more cunning, but few who matched his strength or his cunning could also match the thickness of his skull. There was a sound like striking lightning, a crack that reverberated through the cave. When it passed, the troll lay flat on his back, one of his tusks snapped off at the root, and above him, victorious and bloody, troll bone embedded in his forehead, was Arni Goatleaper. Only his name was Goatleaper no longer. And so, that was actually the end of that story. Like, the article ends with that bit. Which was beautiful, but I wanted to have that as its own thing, right? Because now, so now we get to see closer to the present. Basically, we're going chronologically. So now we're in the more getting closer to the present day. Things are moving chronologically, of course, And so Arnie's new foe is not a skill rating party. It's a dragon. A hellkite. Now, Joe, what do you know about hellkites in general? Dragons.
It sounds like it should be self-explanatory. They're dragons.
It's a dragon. And so Nala's there and she's like, this is not a worthy death. he's just standing there.
The Istbel after all.
He's tying knots. And so you look at Arnie and there's this dragon and people are attacking this dragon. And Arnie's messing with a piece of rope and making knots in a rope. And so these guys are all trying to fight the dragon, and obviously it's a dragon, and so nothing's working, nothing's gonna work. And people are like trying to fight the dragon, and the dragon attacks them, and they're like, "I'm sorry, Mr. Dragon, I didn't mean it," because it's a dragon. And Nala's like, "Hey, Al, are you gonna go kill the guys that are being cowards?" She goes, "They're not being cowards, they're being smart. It's common sense to not fight a dragon." And so Arnie's still there, making the knots in the rope. Everyone else is trying to fight this dragon, and he's just tying knots, right?
Uh-huh.
He then makes it, he goes like that, and it's a lasso. And he throws it at the dragon, and he gets it on one of the dragon's horns. And the dragon's like, "What are you doing, you tiny, tiny man?" And he just goes, and Arnie flies up into the air. And so Nala's like, "Oh snap, he's in the air, he's going to die, finally." But somehow Arnie is like, he uses his like strength and momentum to turn around midair, and then instead of slamming into the stones, he puts his feet on them, and he basically uses like a spring kind of thing, and then he jumps. But before he jumps, he looks like he's smiling. He's always smiling. Arnie is smiling all the time, thinking, "You know what? I'm probably going to die if I do this, but I want to do it anyways because it's going to look really cool when I do it, and I want to do it." And so it says he smiles, and he shows that grin from before. It's like saying, "Watch this." And so Arnie is basically riding this dragon now. And so as Nala's watching him, he takes out a blade, right? All to scare you freaking out because he's there. And then he just shoves the blade into the dragon's forehead and kills it. It's beautiful. It's like, just once again, read the actual story. It's going to be in the description if you want to get like the full details. But basically, Arnie's a boss. And so the thing is, even though he just slayed a dragon basically single-handedly with nothing but a piece of rope and a blade, his name, of course, is Arni Brokenbrow. Because how do you top headbutting a troll? It's shoved in his head. He still has that horn and the tooth embedded in his head. It's beautiful. But now we come to Mr. Giant Boots. And the last story in this particular bit. You see, Mr. Giant Boots, Tover as he's known, is a huge Kana warrior. The Kana are the green tribe, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Pretty sure. 90% sure. 80% sure. I'm going to check real quick. Just want to make sure. The Kana are the green tribe. Apparently Kana Creek exists. Okay, yeah. It is the Kana. Good. So, this guy, Giant's Blood, member of the Kana, is huge. It says His bare chest, tattoos dancing with each steaming breath, was twice as broad as any other present. Even the massive pines of the Aldergard seemed somehow diminished when he passed under them. Arnie's a short boy. So he's like, oh, hi. But Joe, tell me, what is his face going to be? Tell me what face is Arnie going to have when confronting this giant of a man?
He's going to be grinning.
He's grinning. And what's amazing is Nala's like, he's going to die. It's happening. It's finally coming. He's going to die. I'm going to get to tell him he did a good job. And then I'm going to help him go. And he's going to get to drink and eat and fight all as much as he wants in the sky. And Arnie's like,
now.
And so, well, right here she says it's finally going to happen. And then the Reaper, her sister, basically goes, it's not like the last 8 times turned out the way you thought they might. It's starting to sound like you're wishful thinking is all. So he's there, and Giant's Blood has an axe. This guy has a giant axe. He's got an axe that ogres or trolls would be carrying around, not people. It's huge. And he goes, Brokenbrow, I'll give you one last chance to repent. Grovel before me and my ancestors. Beg our forgiveness for desecrating the resting place of my family, and you can leave this circle alive. They're in a circle of like other humans that are watching this fight about to unfold, right? Can you guess what it is that Arnie did to offend his family?
I can't guess anything this man would be doing.
He relieved himself in their graveyard. He peed in the forest, unknowingly desecrating their corpses.
Yeah, I would have not guessed that.
Of course, Arnie's like, where's the fun in that? You're a giant man. I want to beat you. And so it's like, she's thinking it's about time. This guy, it's a human. He's smart. He can also like defeat him. All this other stuff, right? I'm not going to go into details on it. There's a very long, very interesting fight. And Arnie's able to hold his own for quite some time. Until Giant's Blood cinches him tight in a bear hug, pinning his arms to his side and lifting him off the ground. His weapon is Arnie's weapon is destroyed. He's just sitting there, being crushed. Like a rabbit in a snare, it says. And then Giant's Blood begins to squeeze tighter. His arms bulging. And it's basically time.
Like poses with me.
And Nala's like, I have to watch this. Because Nala's a huge fan of Arnie, obviously. And I was like, probably shouldn't be watching this because this is going to be very gruesome. And she's like, no, I have to see it. And she is like, moment by moment, it just watches his life slowly leave his body. And it says like she's like, as it's happening, she's realizing that she wanted him to win. And she's going to intervene. And I was like, no, you can't do that. This is an honor duel. We're not even supposed to like intervene in general, but this specifically is an honor duel between a guy whose his grandparents are peed on. He needs this. And so they're like, we gotta watch. And so it says right here, she looks over his shoulder and she sees Arnie's face, and he's looking at her. And you know what? He's grinning. Giant's Blood lifted him fully into the air, and all the better to leverage that monster strength of his. For the first time in the fight, the two saw eye to eye. Arnie drew his head back, and suddenly Nala remembered that story from before, and how he had gotten his name.
He headbutts him to death, doesn't
He headbutts and wins the fight. Because obviously. That was Arnie's story.
So knowledge is here conflicted the whole time too. Just like if you die, I get to bring you to the good place. But also, I want you to win because you keep doing it.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like when you see something and it's like, I know what you're doing, like it's dangerous, and I just want this all to end, but it's so entertaining. He was basically a wrestler.
He's like way better than a wrestler.
It's real. But
it's real.
But yeah, that was Arnie's story. And it was so much fun. He's such a fun guy. And it, like, obviously the mechanics of his card make sense. His boast ability makes him have one more power than the strongest creature on your team. So he's literally just one-upping whoever's on his side. If somebody did something impressive, he's going to be just that little bit more impressive with his power. And obviously, you would want to put him in like a red-green deck against like with trolls on your team kind of thing.
After all this, he's going into Rock.
Oh yeah, of course, because he'll see Sirach and be like, "Watch this."
Like, I punched a bear. I hold my sword.
I'm a headbutt some stuff. But yeah, that.
Especially once I get Ulamog and Sirach.
Oh my gosh, he looks up. Oi.
Oi, small fry.
Watch this.
Like, I punched a bear. I headbutted an Eldrazi. Did you? Watch this.
Like the tusk is slightly shorter from like being annihilated, but his entire body's okay. It's like it was no big deal. It's like okay. But yeah, Arni Brokenbrow.
I love him.
Yeah, he's great. He's hilarious.
I don't even want to get into the main story now. I've loved all three of these, I think, more than I could love anybody in this main story.
The main story is pretty good. It leads to something pretty good. And I will say, we've titled each of these, of course, after the legendary that we were talking about. This next one is going to be about Vorinclex.
Okay, I guess I don't want to miss it. I know you guys don't want to miss it. So go ahead and leave a like if you liked this video. You better have liked this video. This is amazing. And subscribe so you can catch Vorinclex. We're going to find out what Phyrexia is doing here in Kaldheim. Don't miss it. You definitely don't want to miss this one. Thank you guys so much for watching. We're going to go ahead and catch you guys next time.
Fantastic.